It's not often that I've heard as much raging debate about how good or bad a movie is that nobody had ever seen than the Odyssey. Now, of course, we got our first glimpse of first reactions from a bunch of the outlets a week or two ago. But, the first reactions usually do tend to skew a little bit more positive until the full reviews come out and all that kind of stuff. So it was with bated breath, like watching a car accident about to happen that you just can't look away from, that we knew that the review embargo for the Odyssey was lifting today. And I remember I put up a post on the community tab about 5 minutes before the review embargo lifted. And I said, well, guys, the review embargo on the Odyssey lifts in about 5 minutes. Get ready for tons of I told you so posts if it's not good. And a whole bunch of critics are all paid off comments if they are good. Well, the reviews are here. 98%. 98%. I counted, there are 4 negative reviews out of the 164. Now, when you talk about the difference between, like, say, a critic rating or a Rotten Tomatoes critic rating and, say, like a Metacritic critic rating, is that a 98% on RT, it literally could just mean, hey, they didn't super love the movie, but they liked it. And if enough of them liked it, that gives it a 98%. Metacritic's a little bit different. Metacritic doesn't gauge how many liked it. They gauge what the overall viewing of it is. This is what Metacritic did for it. 88. It gave it the category of universal acclaim. It has 53 reviews registered under Metacritic right now. 49 of them positive, 4 of them mixed, none negative. None negative on Metacritic. So whether you're a Metacritic guy, whether you're a Rotten Tomatoes guy, the scores are insane. As a matter of fact, if we go back over to Metacritic here for a second, we start running down the outlets. Arizona Republic gave it 100 out of 100. RogerEbert.com scored it 100. The Guardian scored it 100. Screen Rant scored it 100. The Playlist scored it 100. USA Today scored it 100. Empire Magazine scored it 100. New York Post scored it 100. The Telegraph scored it 100. The Independent scored it 100. There's a lot of them that really loved it. Now, look, I am now convinced this is going to be the next chapter in there are some movies everybody loves that John doesn't. The original Halloween doesn't hold up. Sorry, Rob. Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. I don't think the original Blade Runner is very good. I am totally alone in my peer group in those thoughts, but I gotta be honest, those are, and I don't know why I got this sinking feeling in my gut that maybe the Odyssey is going to be the next one for me, but I do know that it looks awesome and it looks incredible and looks great. And, this is the highest critic score that a Christopher Nolan movie's had. At this point. So, I mean, everything's looking pretty damn good. Again, I'm seeing it at 2:00 tomorrow. Rob, I know you're seeing it tomorrow, but we're lucky enough that we got somebody in the room who has actually seen it. Sean has seen the movie himself right now. So I'll just ask in basic terms, and I'll ask you to non-spoilery get into it a little bit, but you're on Rotten Tomatoes. You got to click the fresh or rotten button. Which one are you pressing?
Well, I've already submitted my score to Rotten Tomatoes, and it was fresh. I had some criticisms about the storytelling because it's non-linear, which is true to Homer's work, but it makes it so the story feels a little bit at arm's length. There's a couple of criticisms I had, but who are we kidding? It's Christopher Nolan tackling the Odyssey. It's a tremendous achievement. It's the sort of movie that very few people could make, both in terms of competency as well as being trusted by Hollywood to try and pull off this movie in this way. And, of course, it's by its nature a huge sweeping epic when it's Christopher Nolan and you're just doing as much practical in camera as possible, shooting it with IMAX cameras. It's just, it feels huge. You feel the dirt, you feel the wetness of the costumes, the grit, the grime, you feel all of it. When you get into the actual Odyssey, when they go to these islands, it plays like a horror movie. I mean, it's as big and massive in scope, scale, and size as you would want, while also being a really interesting follow-up to Oppenheimer, because both of the movies are about men dealing with the consequences of the world created with how they won a war through their ingenuity and
Mm.
their creativity. And so they're wildly different movies, but also kind of the same in another sense. And it has big emotion. It crescendos so nicely in the third act when it comes together. And I love you don't know who you're messing with moments in movies. And if you know the Odyssey, this one has some awesome ones in it when you get into the last little bit. So as someone that Christopher Nolan is a formative director for me. I saw Memento at an art house theater, one of the first
Oh,
movies I ever
yeah.
saw at an art house theater. My friend's like, this movie plays backwards. I'm fresh out of high school and I see it and I was like, wow, there's awesome movies that don't have aliens and superheroes. This is incredible. And I've been a huge fan of his ever since. And that streak is untarnished by the Odyssey.
Rob, we've all thought it's Christopher Nolan, so we do have to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? And that Trojan horse prelude clip that they put out in IMAX theaters did look incredible. Rob, you and I both, though, as much as we believed in it, when that one trailer came out and, my dad's coming back, like both of us are a little bit, it feels a little weird. And granted, it's just a trailer, but both you and I were like, yeah, a little bit weird. So what were your final kind of expectations? Where did you think these reviews were going to come out when they start dropping? Because I thought they were going to be good. I don't know that I was expecting, universal praise on Metacritic and like a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know. What were you thinking heading into this?
Well, I was really I'm most curious because I haven't seen it yet, about just how he handles all of this material. I've been arguing for the fact that I've loved movies that delve into myth in ways that aren't necessarily, like Excalibur being a prime example of going into the Arthurian legends, but it's not period accurate, and the story's very stylized in the way it's told. And I remember reading criticisms of Excalibur back in '81 when it first came out, and I was a young whippersnapper thinking, well, that's odd because the movie doesn't say, I mean, it's a retelling of Lamort D'Arthur, but it's not saying that this is real. And to me, the language was interesting, that the modern vernacular is interesting, but I understand, it's a hard thing to do when you're going to start doing period like this, because if you make everybody talk in accents and you go back to Old English or Old Greek, as it were, it can be a little rough. And the thing about Christopher Nolan is, say what you want about him, his movies are peak verisimilitude. He makes you believe. And like whatever you're watching, you're not looking at, I saw somebody online today, I forget who it was, saying, he was used to looking around the edges for the green screen.
That was Tom Holland. That was Tom Holland that said that, I think.
Oh, well, and that when you're watching the movie, it's all real and you can feel that it's real. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for that alone, John, you talk about experiential events. That's what I'm most interested in. I'm most interested in being immersed in Nolan. Nolan creates reality. Even when I don't love his stories like Tenet, I just loved watching that movie unfold because it was quote unquote real. Same with Inception. Even when you're looking at these landscapes where one city's folding in on itself, it looks like, well, if that really happened, it would look just like Christopher Nolan's making it look. And there's nobody, I think, working in Hollywood today who is this kind of filmmaker. So, and I haven't loved everything he's done. I had big logic problems with The Dark Knight Rises, even though I can watch the first 45 minutes of that movie on repeat forever, and nothing even really happens in those first 45 minutes. I just like watching what he's providing to us. So I'm really interested in seeing it in that way, and I'm sure that I will really enjoy that aspect of it, but I don't think necessarily that I'm predisposed to loving it.
You know what I did last night, guys? Ann and I got back from a concert last night, and We got back a little bit late, so she went to bed, but I wasn't quite tired, so I popped on the TV, and Troy was on.
Love
We
that
are
movie.
lions, right? And so I started watching Troy, and again, no Greek accents anywhere to be found. But I remember I don't know how, it's kind of creepy how my smart TV knows what I'm doing, because then I go to my YouTube thing on my TV, and it's got this video of this professor of Homeric poetry from England who does a breakdown of Troy and everything inaccurate about it. Now, he started off, it's kind of funny, and it's like this stereotypical English professor, right? And almost straight out of Harry Potter. And he starts off by saying, first, you need to know I love this movie. He goes, I love Troy. I get a lot of kick out of it. He said, but it's so wrong. And he starts going through with like coins on the eyes. Let me put coins on his eyes. He goes, never happened. He goes, never, not part of it. And like all these things, and he's just like ripping apart everything that is wrong with Troy from a, Homer point of view and a history point of view. But at the end of the day, he didn't really care. He said, I still love this movie. I don't care, which I thought was really cool. I wanted to do it as a double feature, knowing that I'm going to go in and see the Odyssey tomorrow. So now I've seen Troy. Now I get to go in and see that. So I had a lot of fun with it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The full reviews are now out for the Odyssey, and it is the highest critically rated big release of the year so far, pulling in massive Rotten Tomatoes numbers, massive critic or Metacritic numbers across the board. Will that translate into box office? Can this movie have, as an R-rated film, have as big of an opening as, say, Nolan's last film, Oppenheimer, at 82 million? Can it do that? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Look, guys, we talk about mental health a lot around here and a lot more openly these days, but actually raising your hand and asking for help, it can still feel incredibly hard. I mean, we wouldn't hesitate to tell a friend it's good to talk to somebody, but society still makes us think twice when it's our turn. BetterHelp is working to bridge that gap. They are the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 6 million people globally with a network of over 30,000 fully licensed, high-quality therapists who work under a strict code of conduct. And the bottom line is that the data shows it works, holding an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp handles the initial matching work for you through a short questionnaire tailored to your needs and preferences. Plus, their industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they usually get it right the first time, but if you ever want to switch, you can do so at any time. Don't let stigma stand in the way of support. Start therapy with BetterHelp. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's betterhelp.com/Campea.